This is the waiver wire week 8. So without further ado, let's just get into Buy-Mageddon, our first Buy-Mageddon of the year. 6 teams on a buy, so the waiver wire is going to be incredibly important. And as we do every week, let's start with the quarterback position. And there's some quarterbacks I think that you can stream if you have a quarterback on a buy. The first quarterback I have to throw out there, and I wrote this before Monday Night Football. I'm recording this on Tuesday. So these stats are through week 6, not through week 7 because they aren't updated yet. But Sam Darnold, he's rostered in 48% of leagues, and he's been playing extremely good football since week 2 through week 6. He's averaged 19.8 fantasy points per game. He also ranks highly in a bunch of metrics that indicate he's playing exceptional football according to fantasy points data. He's number 3 in hero percentage, which means the amount of plays that he is a hero on, which he turns into big plays down the field, 6.8%. He's number 10 in turnover-worthy plays at 1.9%. Number 8 in sack percentage. He's being sacked the 8th fewest times. Number 14 in catchable throw percentage. Number 1 on ADOT on all his throws. And he's thrown 11 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. So if you need a solid, stable producer at the quarterback position and Sam Darnold's available, I think he's a no-brainer add. Now, these next two are a little bit more desperate if you need a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers rostered in 28% of leagues. I think we're getting to the point where I need to admit that Aaron Rodgers is actually playing pretty good football. I'm not saying he's going to give you 20 points a game from the quarterback position, but if you are desperate, like I said, Rodgers should be able to get you anywhere from 12 to 17 points, and he's widely available. So far this season, he's averaging 16.2 fantasy points per game. And don't throw rotten food at me through your screen for this one, but Joe Flacco is rostered in 11% of leagues. And since his trade to Cincinnati, Flacco's averaged 22.3 fantasy points per game. Actually, if you round that up, it's 22.4. And I get it, it's a small sample size, but there's no doubt he has better weapons in Cincinnati than he had in Cleveland. And he seems to have rejuvenated Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, at least for now. And the schedule, we want to look at the schedule to determine, is he going to be usable for us in fantasy? And it's very nice. He has games against the Jets, the Bears. Their bye week is in week 10. Then he gets the Steelers, the Patriots, the Ravens, Bills, Ravens again, Dolphins, and Cardinals is a tough matchup in week 17. But there's some usable weeks in there if you're just streaming quarterback. And again, I get it. I'm crazy for suggesting Joe Flacco, but I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world if you're super desperate and for whatever reason your league mates are hoarding quarterbacks or for whatever reason. Let's shift to the running back position. Kyle Monangai, he's rostered in just 7% of leagues. He's my number 1 recommendation at the running back spot this week. He saw his usage increase this week. Monangai was on the field for 31 of 68 snaps, ran 10 of 27 routes, was targeted twice, carried the ball 13 times. Now, Swift is still the leader of this backfield. He saw the majority of the snaps, ran the majority of the routes, only was targeted once, carried the ball 19 times, but Monangai is trending towards being used as a 50-50 split in this Bears backfield, and he's a must roster in 12-team leagues. And obviously, if anything happens to Swift, it'll be the Kyle Monangai show unless they trade for somebody. But at the deadline, his final stat line in this game, we mentioned 13 carries, 81 yards, did score a touchdown, added 2 receptions for 13 yards. Let's talk Bam Knight, rostered in 22% of leagues. It sure looks like Bam Knight is going to lead the Cardinals backfield until Trey Benson comes back from an injury. This week, he played on 34 of 76 snaps, ran 15 of 46 of the routes, was targeted 4 times, carried the ball 14 times to Michael Carter 7. The production wasn't there, but the volume sure was. We should be able to rely on him getting that volume going forward. This week, his final stat line, 14 carries, 57 yards, no touchdowns, did have 3 catches. So if you're in a PPR league, 3 catches for 7 yards, not a lot, but it was something. I talked about Tajay Spears last week, but I still think it bears repeating this week. Tajay Spears is rostered in 29% of leagues, and it's pretty much a 50-50 split in this Titans backfield, which really reduces the upside of both Pollard and Spears, especially considering they don't play in the greatest of offenses. But I still contend that Spears is the better pass-catching running back in this offense. The problem is that Tony Pollard is a pass catcher as well. And that reared its ugly head this week because Pollard caught 6 passes for 43 yards while Spears caught just 3 passes for 18 yards. I still think Spears should be rostered in 12-man leagues this week. He played on 23 of 53 snaps, ran 13 of 39 of the routes, was targeted 4 times, carried the ball 5 times for 22 yards. Again, we mentioned 3 catches for 18 yards. Not great, but again, there's a chance that Tony Pollard gets traded too. So I think Tajay Spears is a stash for now. Brashard Smith, rostered in 6% of leagues. Kareem Hunt is now dealing with an injury, but was able to return. Most of this usage for Smith was in garbage time, but it is good that he was able to get on the field. Perhaps eventually Smith can prove that he is more dynamic than Hunt or Pacheco, but I wouldn't go crazy with a waiver wire bid here because he was used mostly in garbage time. 28 of 81 snaps, 9 of 40 routes run, 5 targets, 14 carries, 39 rushing yards. No more than 1 to 3% on Brashard Smith. Isaiah Davis, same story, 1 to 3% of your fabs. Breece Hall might be traded by the NFL's trade deadline on November 4th. If he is, it sure looks like Isaiah Davis is going to be the next man up. This week against the Panthers, Davis played on 29 of 61 snaps, ran 21 of 45 of the routes, was targeted 3 times, carried the ball twice, and while Davis only carried the ball twice, he did average 5 yards a carry. Again, extremely small sample size. I get it, but I do think he is a capable running back should Breece Hall be traded away. Jadon Blue. Again, you're not spending more than 1 to 3% on any of these running backs that we've mentioned so far outside of Kyle Monangai. I would probably go up to 7 to 9% of your fab. But Jadon Blue, rostered in just 12% of leagues. He's a must-roster handcuff on a Cowboys team that is dynamic offensively. This week, Blue played on 15 of 67 snaps, ran 4 of 33 routes, was targeted once, carried the ball 7 times. Final stat line was 7 carries for 29 yards, 1 catch, 5 yards, no touchdowns. Again, not spectacular, but we want to be one step ahead. If anything happens to Javonte Williams, presumably it's going to be Jadon Blue that's going to step in and take on the majority of the workload. Now, I cannot believe Brian Robinson Jr. is rostered in just 31% of leagues. McCaffrey is touching the ball over 26 times a game, which is insane, and I'm extremely skeptical that he can last the entire season. If you have CMC and Robinson Jr. is available, you must add him as an insurance policy, and I would spend anywhere up to 9% of your fab, maybe 7 to 9, maybe 10% of your fab on him, just as an insurance policy. If you don't have CMC, I don't think he's as valuable. But again, 31% rostered is insane. I think he should be rostered in more than that. And this week he played on 17 of 66 snaps, ran 5 of 28 routes, carried the ball 9 times. So he is getting some usage, despite the fact that CMC's on the field a ton. And we need to talk about Bashul Tootin. He's rostered in just 40% of leagues. I bet a bunch of people are going to drop him now that the Jaguars are on their bye week. Bashul Tootin saw his usage go up in a blowout loss to the Los Angeles Rams. ETN is still the lead back, and I don't think that that's going to change. But he hasn't done much over 3 weeks, and I don't expect ETN to be replaced, as I said, but there's a ton of upside in rostering Bashul Tootin as a handcuff in the event that something happens to ETN. And in week 7, 22 of 77 snaps, 13 of 57 routes run, 0 targets, 5 carries. Again, I know it's not that much, but Tootin is a high upside handcuff running back to roster. Again, he's probably going to get dropped because the Jags are on their bye. This is a perfect time to scoop him up if you have the roster space. Now let's go to the wide receiver position. And Luther Burden, I don't know if he's my number 1 recommendation, but I put him number 1 because I think the upside is just very tantalizing. And I think that there's a chance that people drop him because he didn't produce this week, but the Bears were in a positive game script for most of this game. And I think Burden is a high upside stash. He played on 19 of 68 snaps, ran 9 of 27 of the routes, was targeted twice, caught one of those passes for 22 yards. Again, didn't do much with the opportunities that he had. But again, the Bears were playing from ahead and rushed the ball for more than 200 yards. So they didn't really need to pass. But again, if anything happens to DJ Moore, if anything happens to Rome Odunze, God forbid, Luther Burden would be the next man up, and we've seen what he can do with limited opportunities in the offense. Kayshon Boutte rostered in just 32% of leagues. Again, I don't think you're spending any more than 5 to 7% fab on any of these wide receivers, maybe 7 to 9% if you're desperate. But Kayshon Boutte is one of the highest upside, lowest floor plays in fantasy football right now. He's the very definition of better and best ball, but he should be added if he isn't rostered in your league. This week, Boutte played on 46 of 64 snaps, ran 27 of 36 of the routes, was only targeted twice, but caught a touchdown. And Boutte's a big play waiting to happen. So if you need upside, look no further than Kayshon Boutte. This is my weekly reminder to you that Alec Ayu Manor is underrated. He's operating as the Titans wide receiver 1 in the absence of Calvin Ridley. And this week he played on 51 of 53 snaps, ran 38 of 39 of the routes, was targeted 5 times. But because Chimere Dike produced, he may be the guy that people rush out and add. But based on this usage and opportunity in the offense, it's still Ayu Manor that I'm going to recommend if he's dropped. And maybe he will be because he just caught 2 passes for 29 yards. So I could see somebody getting frustrated, dropping him. Just remember, he is the wide receiver 1 on this offense without Calvin Ridley, and he's the wide receiver 2 when Calvin Ridley returns. For the same reason, I'm recommending Troy Franklin, who's rostered in 21% of leagues. He continues to be heavily utilized in this offense. Once again, he operated as the wide receiver 2, playing on 50 of 81 snaps, ran 41 of 56 of the routes, was targeted 10 times. He only caught 3 passes for 19 yards, but he did catch a touchdown. I think we saw this week exactly why having some exposure to this Broncos offense is going to be a good thing going forward. And adding Franklin is a cheap, easy way to do that. So again, Troy Franklin, I think, is still underrated, only rostered in 21% of leagues. These next players are more stashes / high upside plays. I wouldn't recommend spending any more than 1 to 3% of your fab on them. Xavier Legette, he played on 57 of 71 snaps, ran 33 of 36 routes, was targeted 10 times. Now, if I'm not sure if this production is going to continue, but Legette looks like a high upside bye-week fill-in, albeit with an extremely low floor. And it also looks like Andy Dalton's going to be the quarterback this upcoming week, which might actually be a good thing for the Panthers pass catchers. Again, his final stat line, 9 receptions, 92 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Somebody's probably going to spend more than me, but again, I wouldn't spend more than 1 to 3% fab on Xavier Legette. Alec Pierce, he's rostered in 9% of leagues, had a good day. He was targeted 10 times. He played on 52 of 60 snaps, ran 35 of 37 of the routes. Final stat line, 5 receptions, 98 yards. Again, I don't know if we can count on this going forward because, Michael Pittman's in the offense. Josh Downs is there. And I know Josh Downs didn't play this week, but still, I wouldn't spend more than 1 to 3% fab on Alec Pierce. Now, this one's interesting. The Washington wide receivers, Jalen Lane, Chris Moore, they're both rostered in less than 3% of leagues. Chris Moore played on 53 of 67 snaps, ran 32 of 40 routes, was targeted 5 times. Jalen Lane, 46 of 67 snaps, 30 of 40 routes, around 5 targets. And Luke McCaffrey, both those guys, Chris Moore, Jalen Lane, played more than Luke McCaffrey. Luke McCaffrey played on 36 of 67 snaps, ran 21 of 40 of the routes, and was targeted twice. And if Debo is going to be dealing with an injury, if Terry McLaurin is going to miss another game, these could be guys, especially considering so many teams are on bye, that could be a desperation flex play for you. And just keep your eye on that situation going forward. A couple more wide receivers before we get to what I think is a really heavy tight end waiver wire week. Parker Washington, rostered in just 1% of leagues, played on 68 of 77 snaps, ran 51 of 57 of the routes, was targeted 10 times, even carried the ball 3 times. And Washington appears to be a fixture of this offense and a trusted player. And BTJ left the game with a shoulder injury. So if he misses some time, it might be Parker Washington who sees more volume in the offense. And again, I know the Jaguars are on their bye week, but sometimes it can be beneficial to add these players, even if they're on their bye, if you're in a deeper league. So I'm just throwing it out there. For the same reason, Nick Westbrook-Akina, who's rostered in just 1% of leagues, he's Mr. Touchdown from last year. He played on 44 of 58 of the snaps, ran 30 of 38 of the routes, was targeted 4 times, only caught 3 passes for 16 yards, and I get it. The Dolphins are a mess, so this is only if you are desperate, only in deeper leagues kind of should you be adding Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, but he's getting on the field and he's getting a lot of run in this offense, and this team is not good. The defense is not good. They're going to have to throw the ball, so why not Nick Westbrook-Ikhine? Now let's get to the tight end position. Oronde Gadsden is my number one waiver wire ad this week at the tight end position because I know a lot of you have Trey McBride. If you're doing well in fantasy, you probably have Trey McBride. Oronde Gadsden's rostered in just 4% of leagues, and McBride's on a bye. He's the perfect bye week fill-in, and I think he's startable going forward in fantasy. This week, he was on the field for 60 of 76 snaps, ran 47 of 61 of the routes, was targeted 9 times, caught 7 passes for 164 yards and a touchdown. I know Justin Herbert's not going to throw the ball 55 times every week, but the Chargers should continue to feature who I think was a really underrated rookie coming in to rookie season and a really athletic tight end. If he's not available for whatever reason, Theo Johnson is the clear lead tight end for the New York Giants. He's rostered in just 18% of leagues. This week, Johnson played on 68 of 77 snaps, ran 35 of 36 of the routes, was targeted 7 times, caught 3 of those passes for 66 yards and a touchdown. I think he's viable as a starting tight end week in and week out. And Colston Loveland, who's rostered in just 22% of leagues. This week, Loveland played on more snaps than Cole Kmet. Kmet was injured, though, and didn't return to the game. So Loveland played on 46 of 68 snaps, ran 17 of 27 of the routes, was targeted 4 times, caught 3 passes for 24 yards, so didn't produce. So he might not be on everyone's radar. But again, the Bears didn't really need to throw a ton in this game because they ran the ball effectively and they were playing from ahead. And Loveland, we know the kind of upside he possesses. So at the tight end position, again, I wouldn't spend more than 3 to 5%. I think I would spend 12 to 15% on Gadsden. I should have mentioned that earlier. But Loveland has a high upside. So if you're desperate at the tight end position, I think he's a good ad. And that's going to do it for us this week. If you liked it, click the like button, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, be good, everybody. And we will see you later.